All right, I think we're up. Okay, let me just make sure all my shit is good before we start the reacts. Basically, today's Smirnoff Saturday. I'm just gonna be drinking, and we're gonna do politics until I become so tipsy where it's literally impossible for me to do politics, or without saying certain words that are permissible. So we'll try to do that. I'm gonna quickly bring up my Discord to the side here. Okay, here we go. Um, I saw this shit. I am not touching this with a 10-foot pole, and that title alone is gonna blow up my brain if I look any like into it. God damn.
5 months from the election, immigration policy is already shaping up as a critical election issue, with the Prime Minister warning the wrong policies could damage social cohesion. But is an immigration backlash the inevitable response to a globalising world? I sat down with Parag Khanna, whose most recent book, Move, describes the demographic forces shaping the world. For decades now, many have seen globalisation as a kind of unstoppable process of greater interconnectedness and integration. How have the geopolitical and broader social dynamics of the last few years changed that?
Well, globalization is absolutely an unstoppable force. It dates back millennia and will continue for millennia, but it does not presuppose that we inexorably move towards ever deeper, unified, harmonized integration. It's really just that process of interconnections which you referred to earlier. And those connections are absolutely multiplying. So I don't have any doubts about whether or not globalization has a future. It has a rich and vibrant future encompassing the entire planet. The real question is its course, its shape. And the way we would moderate this unfettered 1990s neoliberal, borderless vision of globalization with today's realities, the way we would reconcile them is by accepting that we're entering an era where you have a bit more continentalism, regionalism, what I actually sometimes call continental drift. North America starting to go its own way, Europe trying to be more internally consolidated, Asia over the past couple of decades taking far more steps to integrate and basically capitalize those interdependencies in the region. But that doesn't mean that globalization has disappeared. We still have rich linkages across these regions, but it does simply make sense for Asia to exploit those commonalities, Europe and North America to do the same. So that will be the future shape of globalization, not a reversal, just more of a sort of drift.
Yeah, right. But to be 100% clear, though, you do see the course of globalization as having changed within recent.
I forgot we should be doing this, right? Autism mode unlocked.
Years.
There's no question that it's always changing. If we were having this conversation 20 years ago, we'd be talking about American-dominated neoliberal paradigm, one-way traffic, right? One power dictates the rules, the others accept them. Now we're in a more multipolar geopolitical context with clearly multiple superpowers, great powers at the regional and global level. That's inevitably going to shape the course of globalization, since, in fact, globalization and geopolitics are actually two sides of the same coin. They're not actually opposing forces. You think historically, without going through the entire historical arc, but empires shape globalization, right? Globalization becomes what empires want it to be. And if you have multiple empires and superpowers bestriding the landscape of the world, globalization becomes what empires want it to be. And if you have
remember, like, bipolarism is like the worst thing that we can add to. Like, remember, like a fuck me.
Historical arc, but empires shape globalization, right?
remember, like, as much as we talk about a bipolar world, like a bipolar world is the worst outcome for the world. Like World War I started because of a bipolar world. World War II started because of a bipolar world. These spheres of influence. Okay, spheres of influence is the most stupid shit ever. Like we just need peace and prosperity. All right, that's what the average citizen wants. I do not want a bipolar world because it's more tension for the world to have.
Globalization becomes what empires want it to be. And if you have multiple empires and superpowers bestriding the landscape of the world today, they're going to be shaping globalization, and those visions may collide, but they don't reverse globalization. They simply steer it.
If you were to take a kind of bird's eye view of liberal democracies around the world, it occurs to me that we're in an age of increasing nationalism and increasing populism. Migration and illegal immigration.
Dude, it's just economics. People vote with their wallets. What the one thing I'm scared about, one thing I'm blackpilled about, is that if people, okay, the one thing that blackpills me a lot is the fact that like if people became super rich, like everybody, like I mean everybody became super rich, we would be firing like a fascist dictatorship. That's what worries me, is that everybody just votes with their wallets. Yeah, I just think that everybody votes with their wallets, and that what blackpills me is that if we ever just become like if somehow a fascist regime makes everybody like richer, I feel like people would be pro that regime. That's what blackpills me a lot.
Motivating concerns for voters in the US, motivating concerns for voters in Europe and elsewhere. Have liberal immigration policies and practices contributed to a backlash?
They most certainly have, but it would not be the only thing. If we really trace this process properly, you would
Can we not hit the Andrew Tate pose, please? Can we just not do this?
see that everything from the neoliberal globalization of the 1990s, the offshoring of entire industries, rising financial globalization and inequality within societies, the erosion of the tax base and deregulation, those forces precede or coincide, let's say, with large-scale immigration as well. It is perfectly conceivable that liberal democracies, those countries of the West and the North that are the largest recipients, particularly Anglophone countries, of course, of migrants, could have managed the economic side of globalization better, and therefore the migratory side, the demographic side of globalization, could well have been absorbed in stride as well. We certainly do need it for our economies, let's be clear. If we want to blame immigration for political ills, rather than blaming political mismanagement for those ills and for those social fractures, let's remember that they won't get any better necessarily simply by reversing migration. Because over the past 30 years, one other trend that cannot be disputed is our changing demographic composition. We need those migrants more than we did 20 or 30 years ago. Who's going to care for the elderly? Who's going to do the work? Who's going to pay for the bloated fiscal entitlements around the retirement systems, and so on and so on. So it cannot be an all or nothing proposition. We're going to need some course corrections, not only in migration. You also have to fix the political side that has been egregiously mismanaged in many societies over the past couple of decades too.
What would that fix look like?
That's going to depend on the country, because on the one hand, I accept your premise that we can try to take a bird's eye view of liberal democracies from a public policy standpoint and try to categorize them or generalize. But as you know very well, part and parcel of this fragmentation that's going on within the West, within the orbit of Western liberal democracies, is that what New Zealand does and Australia does, and Canada versus the US versus Germany, France, Italy, these are very different trajectories for every one of these countries in terms of their domestic political profile of the moment, their priorities, their sense of what constitutes a good society, what level of a welfare state they're prepared to spend on. We're not going to have one answer to those questions. So I think you're asking the right question, but I would not hesitate for a moment to claim, to point out that you will not have one answer to that question. I see very stark divides between, of course, the Anglo-American system, continental welfare, European continental social welfareism, and other models around the world. And they're going to experiment in their own way.
So let's imagine what might happen in years to come if we are on the cusp or partway through a significant backlash towards what might be deemed more liberal migration policies. But the places that are experiencing this political backlash are also places where the demographics mean they will rely on a certain degree of migration in order to maintain the standard of living they currently enjoy. What of those forces is going to win out in the years to come?
Actually, I'm glad you framed it that way, because the one principle that always wins is supply and demand. The most powerful law in all of history that applies to not just microeconomics, but even you might say physics and demographics, is supply and demand, right? There is a supply of people willing to migrate and a demand for those people. The demand function or the demand side of the equation may change based upon things like politics and even technology, to be clear. There are novel robotic and automation technologies coming into force in developed economies that do alleviate, diminish the need for certain kinds of migrants. That could be robots that do irrigation and crop picking, and obviously those that work in factories, and even robots that are home health aides and assistants. And so you might see a decrease in demand for certain verticals of immigration in certain sectors in certain countries, depending on the pace at which they deploy those technologies. But robots don't pay taxes. So we do have to think about that dimension too. So the supply side and the demand side of the equation simply amounts to a lot more. It's just simply much more complicated than the political appetite at any given point in time. There's the technology, there's the labor markets, there's business cycles, and the political will that all really interplay in extremely complex ways.
Well, there's the cultural component as well, isn't there? And it occurs to me that some of the countries that are experiencing the biggest shift in demographics, or indeed the lowest birth rates, the likes of South Korea, the likes of Italy, are also countries that have traditionally had very strong cultural identities. So how do you see the tension between preserving culture and sustaining economies in those kinds of places? How do you see that playing?
How do you think about it? I told
Great
you,
question.
there's attention stuff. That's why I don't think a bipolar world is good. Yeah.
And again, the answer is very, very idiosyncratic, unique to each country. A country like Italy is one that I always use in my own narration of this topic. I say you have hyper-nationalistic, anti-migrant, chauvinistic, leadership at any given point in time, whether it's the leadership or whether it's various political parties. But migration is most certainly the hot-button issue. And now I would ask you, Jack, to just close your eyes and ignore who you're listening to, and only look on December 31st every year at the immigration statistics. Do I need to complete the thought? Guess what happens? It just keeps going up, right? So what politicians say versus what the country actually does are usually quite different things. And in fact, just to pick on, we do love Italy, but let's just pick on them for a moment. The fact is that whenever you have those culturally nationalist, xenophobic governments in power, do you know what the most ironic thing happens? And this is not some kind of pejorative slur. This is just the fact. Talented people leave the country coinciding with those governments. So chauvinistic, populist, xenophobic governments are literally a driver of the exact phenomena they seek to prevent. Educated women leave Italy in exactly in lockstep with those same governments that basically say women should stay at home and have children. And so that's just an example. Look only at the numbers. The politicians are saying one thing, the economy is saying another. Supply and demand wins. But that's on the other side of the world from South Korea. South Korea is clearly not in a position culturally, politically, even administratively, you might say, to absorb mass migrants. They have very, very few. They are not in as fortunate a position as Japan. When we look at Japan, we also see a country that we characterize as being in demographic decline, terminal. Some would even say suicidal. And yet, when you travel to Japan, as you and I both know, living here in this greater Asian hemisphere, is that people love to travel to Japan. They want to move to Japan. They want to retire in Japan. Students are going to Japan. Digital nomads are going to Japan. The future of the Japanese archipelago involves many millions of non-Japanese people. It may not be enough to correct the overall fertility decline, and it's going to change the cultural characteristics of what we think of when we think of Japan. But at least they will have people, which is not the same as what you could say about Korea.
You say the future is Asian. Why?
Well, to be honest with you, the book title came from my editors, and I think they picked a great title. But my only retort to them was, actually, the present is Asian. The present is already Asian. At what point in the future does it get acknowledged that the present is Asian? Because what tends to happen in our kind of, let's call it Western mindset is that the future never quite arrives when it isn't us. But I would encourage you to think about it differently. I would say the present is Asian. Most of the human population is Asians in Asia. Most of the world economy is Asian. Most of the world's production and consumption is in Asia. And whether you consider yourself culturally, in terms of your identity.
Remember, when we look at the world, like the reason why the West took off and why it has continued to be kind of dominant is mostly to do with the fact of innovation. Like, obviously, like the most population is in Asia and whatever, but like India's stagnating. Doesn't get that much FDI. China, Japan, both Koreas are going through demographic collapse. It's just like, it's hard to beat the narrative because obviously the West is on top, so there's always going to be like a bit of a hatred naturally towards them. But yeah.
Or nationality and Asian is less significant than whether or not you belong to that geographical sphere in which those centripetal forces are binding us all together, irrespective of how we as individuals feel about it. So it is an Asian world today. That's just a statement of fact.
Well, if the future or the present of the world is Asian, I mean, New Zealand is arguably already living it now. I think we have one of the largest Asian populations outside of Asia living in our biggest city, Auckland. In the last couple of weeks, Parag, New Zealand's Prime Minister has referenced immigration policies and his concern that the wrong policies could degrade social cohesion, could damage social cohesion. I wonder how you think about that framing in a New Zealand context.
He's not wrong about the potential outcomes, but I would say that one has to be much more honest about the causal mechanisms of that narrative. Because the fact is, as I emphasized before, every step of the way, you can do things to ensure that social cohesion is not adversely affected by mass migration. You can be selective about which migrants come in. Of course, you can choose, you can calibrate it very carefully to what sectors you need them in. You can have on-the-job training and retraining, ensure higher unemployment, productivity, and wage growth. You can have cultural immersive programs around language and other sorts of civic duties and obligations. You can do all of those things at every step of the way to ensure that if those migrants that come in are not meant to just be temporarily and return home the way they are in Japan, but if they are on a pathway towards permanent residency, well, then you have every right to impose certain obligations that people become Kiwis. I grew up in a fair number of countries, in the United Arab Emirates, in India, in America, and in Germany. And when I moved to Germany, I actually didn't speak German. But by the time I came out, I graduated a German school with a German degree speaking German. And now I may wander the streets of Berlin today. I go there all the time. I look like a Turk. People think, they just assume I'm Turkish. But the difference is the language. And what you can see, if you take the cross-section of 30 European countries, and compare their policies and their social cohesion at the output, you would see that those countries that impose very strict language requirements and civic knowledge as part of the pathway.
Yeah, like assimilation is not like a hard thing. You just have to get people to speak the language and not be poor. Like, give them a job and then like they'll assimilate very easily. It's how most of human histories work. I like the rhetoric that we have currently is just so toxic. around like the immigration issue. Yeah.
Way towards residency fare much better in that overall social stability than those that don't. So there are no accidental outcomes here. You have a choice. There's a menu of policies that I urge every country to study and to look at and to implement if they want to preserve social cohesion. It's not something that you sit back passively and wait and see what the impact is. We've seen it for decades, both the good and the bad.
To be totally clear, that is certainly what this government in New Zealand would say they are doing right now, that they are looking only at skilled migrants, for example, and that, for people who are wishing to become citizens of this country, they'll face citizenship tests and the like in the years to come. You say that ageing nations have to compete for the young and mobile, but in recent years, New Zealand has lost record numbers of its own citizens overseas, the vast majority to Australia, of course, while at the same time bringing in migrants to fill the gap. On your own logic, are we losing that contest?
It's a very interesting, or I should say, challenging conundrum, and one that surprises many people who are not from New Zealand or know New Zealand, that why would anyone, flee from paradise, so to speak. But it gets back to one or two of these public policy questions that we raised at the outset, and a particular challenge that has a solution that we haven't talked about yet, which is affordable housing. And I know enough about New Zealand to know that is a huge complaint among the citizenry. Again, is it migrants' fault that zoning regulations, real estate development policy, affordability, subsidies, the construction industry, and all of those things have not been aligned to produce sufficient affordable housing for New Zealanders themselves, let alone the migrants? It is quite simply no one's fault but your own. And by you, I mean anyone, any country that faces this problem. I have some conciliatory news for you, which is that every country in the world has gotten this wrong. Except for Singapore, the country I happen to live in, which is a widely studied case of building sufficient, adequate, affordable housing and home ownership policy. It's sadly unique in the world, but at least it's something that you're close enough to study and learn from, and other countries are as well. Bottom line, affordable housing is the single universal public policy crisis and challenge that I see in every country, in every urban environment. How this links to the question about whether or not you're winning the war for talent is that young people, young digital nomads who are cost conscious, who could live and work pretty much anywhere in the 100 countries that are inviting them to come in, are looking at affordability. Most certainly is one of the key metrics as to whether or not they want to go live in a society. They want political stability, they want high wages, they obviously want affordable housing, they want a liberal culture, they want those things. And New Zealand generally offers those things, but you are competing that marketplace for talent amongst the couple of billion young mobile of the world, and you want to have your fair share of the best of them. But you're going to have to score high in all of those metrics, and affordable housing is one where you do not score well, but you can do something about it.
Finally, Parag, it occurs to me that one of the biggest dynamics likely to affect global demography in the century or so to come is climate change. And this is one of the central arguments you made in your book, Move. You predict that stable, temperate countries like New Zealand will essentially become refuges as the planet warms. Are we remotely prepared for what that demand looks like?
I think when you say we, you as New Zealand are blessed and protected, as you said, and that's just good geographical fortune. But other places are not well prepared for the mass migrations. Most, again, of humanity is Asians in Asia, and there will be a swirl, a recirculation, a resettlement of populations in light of the intense climate stress afflicting South Asia and Southeast Asia, the regions right here on the map behind me, where you have 2.5 billion people, primarily young people actually, in among the most climate stressed geographies in the world. Now, they're not all...
Yeah, like when we look at a lot of the migrants who come from Asia, but you have to understand it's usually middle class to upper class people, because A, they have the money to make that journey, and B, they have not only do they have the money to make that journey, like they come here usually well educated, maybe some land back home. So like it's not like the poor and muddled masses that are coming over to like New Zealand or even like other Western countries. It usually has a lot to do with the fact that it's just economic migration, because like the living standards that they can get as middle class and upper class people actually in Asia is not as much as they could get in a Western society.
Going to wind up in New Zealand. They're going to be moving northward, and I've tracked this in my own work. You're seeing South Asian populations, wind up in Russia, in Siberia, across Central Asia. Needless to say, they're in the Gulf countries where it's hot, but it's air conditioned. So there is going to be a great resorting. It's going to be a very, you might say, gradual process, but it's already underway. And there's significant frictions. Needless to say, there's vast geographical frictions, there's political frictions, and other kinds of obstacles. But yes, we will live to see, perhaps 1 billion people relocate simply because of climate change, leaving aside other factors with which it, of course, intersects. But is the world as a whole ready? No, not even close, unfortunately.
We really appreciate your time. I know this conversation could go on forever, but thank you so much, and all the best.
My pleasure. Thank you.
High tide at Auckland, 9:15 tonight, Onehunga at midday. Weather-wise,
Opportunity Party is experiencing a surge in political polling, regularly hitting figures between 3% and 6% as the November 26 general election approaches. The current norm of doing things is that you will only interview leaders of political parties if they're within Parliament, but given the surge in the polling, given that a number of political parties around the world have sprung up as alternatives, with voters saying a pox on both the houses of the traditional main parties, we thought if you were saying, yes, the Opportunities Party, that's where my vote would go, you might not know that much about them. You might just not like National or Labour or any of the other alternatives. So we thought we should have a Meet the Opportunities Party and a Meet the Opportunities leader, Kule Wong. Very good morning to you.
Good morning, Kerry. Thanks for having us.
Are you getting used to the media rounds now as you make yourself known?
I am getting a little more used to it, yes.
Yeah.
Been practicing a bit now.
Does what's happening overseas with the different parties, some of them very right wing, some of them very left wing, give you hope that you will be seen by voters as a viable option?
Yeah, definitely. And not even just left and right, but actually some really strong centrist parties that have done well in the Netherlands and Wales, coming through and actually governing, with a majority. So I think that there is definitely a pushback.
Remember, like, politics is no longer a left and right like spectrum, right? We're dealing with populists versus like anti-populists, and anti-populist position is quite literally just doing governance, just being a liberal, just passing laws. I cannot like stress this enough. There's nothing radical about it. It's just like looking at a problem, being like, okay, we need more subsidies here, or we need more funding, or we need more of a different structure for our laws. That's the problem. It has nothing to do with centrist left or right. It's just stupid.
Against the status quo across the political spectrum.
Well, you say centrist, but I looked at the profiles online of your candidates, and they're amazing, hardworking, high-achieving, mostly, youngish people.
Yeah.
But they all look like the sort of candidates the Greens would give their eye teeth for.
Do you think so?
Yeah, I do.
I think we're probably...
Yeah, no, like, that's a really good point. Like, right now, what I said was that I think the top party is actually probably a really good future partner to go with Labour, because, like, they've got a very progressive tax system, or tax policy, on top of the fact that they have a very good, like, approach on the economy, whereas Labour has, Greens have a very dog shit approach to the economy, but will always want a progressive tax system too. So I think top is actually very good in that regard. They're more pragmatic when it comes to these approaches, when it comes to economic issues.
Probably a little bit too corporate for some of the Greens.
No. I mean, I think it reminds me a lot of the old-fashioned Greens.
Well, that's a different kind of Greens. Yeah,
it is. But it's certainly more green than ACT, you'd have to say.
Well, wasn't Brooke formerly a Greens member or something?
Oh, she must have been about 12, which is very young when she became deputy leader of ACT.
Yeah.
But we are. This is for you to ring in if you're one who's interested in the Opportunities Party. Then now is your time. Between now and 11, you know the drill. Give us a call. 0800 80 10 80 is the number to call. You're going for Mount Albert.
Yes, we
Why?
are. Well, I live there, so that's a good start.
Well, that's actually a good start, other than being parachuted in.
Totally. I think I would find it hard to genuinely go to try and win an electorate unless I lived there. Yeah. So I think that that's really important. My daughter goes to school, the local primary school, but it's also a demographic, I think, of people who are really frustrated with the status quo, whether they're former Labour or National or Green voters, and they want something different, something more aspirational. And I think it is that young demographic who are probably working in professional jobs but have grown up really caring about the environment.
Remember, people are satisfied with the status quo, but it has, like, it's not that they don't understand this. It's more that, obviously, because of what has happened, it kind of becomes something natural. You need to give political parties, like, majorities. All right, like, Labour should not have, like, the next Labour government really should not have, like, the lack of power, let's say, in comparison to, like, what they had during Ardern's government. Like, with Ardern, she had the option to coalition with the Greens, and then she took it. So it should be an option thing. Like, was when you have political majorities, you can then put in your agenda, and then, like, it's one thing to say, like, Labour or National bad policy platforms. It's another thing to say that they have bad policy platforms because they had a coalition or whatever. Like, that's the best way I can put it. Like, just because you're a coalition does not determine the strength of your policy platform. Because obviously, with the more political power you have directly, the more you'll be able to implement that policy platform to its best ability, instead of just floundering in a coalition again and again, as this government is currently doing.
And that's what we stand for, that sort of innovation and environmental nexus, which nobody else represents. So we think it's really worth a shot, and I would be super proud to be a local MP for that community.
It's a tough one, though. It's it's traditionally a Labour stronghold.
It is, yeah, but they only won it by 18 votes at the last election, so it's clearly tight. I think people, that shows that people are looking for something different. And we've had we had an amazing weekend. We had about 150 volunteers, outdoor knocking, flyering, and we had some really promising conversations with locals. So I'm feeling hopeful.
So when you talk about your demographic, young, educated, grown up with the treaty principles, grown up with concern for the environment, that's your typical Opportunities Party voter.
I think it's typical, but we do get people at sort of the younger and older end of that spectrum as well. Certainly, there are retirees who are really worried about their kids and their grandkids' future, thinking about, voting not just in their interest but for the next generation. So we certainly get a lot of them as well. And we had some young high school kids coming to our event as well, which was amazing to see, that are really interested in where politics is going in this country and wanting to see democracy protected, because I think they're really worried about what that's going to look like for the future.
I have a question from Tim. I'm a bit sick, so I'm sorry I'm texting, not ringing. Can you ask Top about their tax policy? One, how will it not increase inflation? Tax landlords, why won't they pass the tax on so rents will increase? What will the new tax rates be, since we're paying tax on?
I can't blame this guy, because obviously nobody, like, understands economics, even though it's, like, the most basic shit. Inflation is when you just put money into the economy for no productive outcome. Like, for example, when Biden passed his 2022 Inflation Reduction Act, it put a lot of money in the economy. It did put a short-term increase to inflation, but that's because money was going in. But because it's put to productive things like infrastructure and funding other certain projects, it then actually decreases inflation, because the idea of inflation is you have too much money chasing too few goods. So when you raise taxes like this won't create inflation. But raising taxes like this, especially because the whole point is to take it and funnel it into something else, like either a welfare or social programs or infrastructure incentives, like that won't create inflation, or at least long-term inflation. It might create inflation for like a month to 6 months, but that's just very short term until you can see the actual like value add of the funding allocated.
Land and income tax. That's your land tax. That's part of your policy.
Yep.
And is it actually fair income tax and land tax being taxed effectively twice?
All right,
Yeah.
right into it,
Jumps into it, yeah.
into the deep stuff.
Yeah,
I
this is
think-
part of your tax reset, isn't it?
Yes, yeah, and really what we're saying here is I think a lot of people recognise that our economy is broken and it's really struggling. Like productivity's been flat, growth has been flat. Whether we've had national or Labour-led governments, we've not been able to solve that problem. And so we think it's time for a proper grown-up conversation about our tax system in New Zealand. We know that we have a narrow tax base, so compared to other countries, we tax few things. And property is the obvious place where we have no taxes really. I mean, obviously people pay rates, which is a slightly different thing, but it doesn't disincentivise things.
I think too, like there's not a real problem with not taxing assets and stuff like that. There is an argument made that you can have more growth and more investment if you have less tax burdens by putting funding into those things. That incentivizes investors to go to those sectors. Housing is not one of them. The productive value of housing dies the moment the last construction worker leaves the site. The moment that happens, housing is no longer a productive asset. It is just a thing. Like, land is productive. Okay, land is a productive asset, not housing. Housing is a commodity to be traded, not something to be evaluated.
Things like land banking and huge property portfolios. So that's kind of the rationale and why we've done this.
And Labour's capital gains tax isn't enough?
Well, it's pretty minuscule in terms of tackling the property problem, and I don't think it would be enough to disincentivise.
Keep in mind too, like obviously, like she can like as much as I like her views and her tax policy stuff, the reason why she can be more kind of out there with it is because Labour is a more broad tent party, so it has to kind of pander to a lot of people to get their votes. Whereas she's got a very specific policy platform, so like the people who vote for her aren't gonna like jump ship because like she's got a very radical view on taxation, because that's what they expect out of it. Whereas Labour is like you got a lot of moderate left people, some people who are disaffected by the National Party, or like even keep in mind, it's not even about getting people interested in your party. It's about putting stuff forward that's not going to mobilize national voters to come out and vote. That's like the whole point of what Labour's doing with their tax strategy.
Incentivise things like land banking. Actually, a capital gains tax would incentivise those developers to hold on to it for longer so they can avoid paying the tax, whereas a broad, flat land value tax actually incentivises things like development. It's affordable when we also combine it with our citizens' income, which is on the other side of it. So it's about shifting some of that burden off what you pay.
Keep in mind too, like land tax does not incentivize more growth. What it really does is it allows it's not that it does more growth. The thing about land tax is that it mostly just makes it so that the people who just sit on an asset cannot just wait until it goes from $1 million to $3 million. It puts a pressure on them to either sell or to it puts pressure on them to sell, or it gives funding to the government, allowing the government to do more stuff when it comes to housing.
Pay on your income tax onto land tax, so that you can't just grow your wealth by buying assets, buying a whole bunch of property. You actually might be directed to put that money into a fund or a business that you want to start, or support a friend that's running a business. At the moment, that doesn't really happen because the most attractive thing to do is just buy up a bunch of rental properties, which pushes the price up, which means the next generation is locked out of home ownership. So that's
what
really
does land
what
tax mean for farmers?
So we have a lower rate for rural land. That would be 0.5 rather than 1.75. And we have a similar challenge in rural areas that we have in urban, in that lots of farmers depend on capital gains rather than actually the value of the business when they go to sell that property, and they're counting on land values going up astronomically, which means that the younger generation can't afford to get into farming, and that's why the average age of a farmer is 65 these days.
But also a lot of the farmers don't really draw much of a wage from their farms until they retire.
Bullshit.
That's when they get.
Keep in mind too, like the reason why farmers are older is because usually farming is a family business thing, at least in New Zealand. I can't speak to other countries, so that's why. And also, like most of our business owners are pretty old. So that's like another thing. And like I don't know, it's some stupid shit.
Their payback for the early hours and the late nights and working every single day of the year and whatever sort of weather.
Yeah, totally. And we fully back our farmers as a core part of this economy in New Zealand. Our deputy leader, Daniel, comes from a farming background and he speaks to this beautifully. We also want to encourage them to innovate and to grow, more diverse, high-value businesses. And that's where some of our land use agriculture policy will come in, where we incentivise things like biodiversity and having a range of crops on farmland so that they can make money through different means, which will, make that business more profitable, not just dependent on selling the land when they retire.
As a political party, the best agent for telling people what to do with their money?
I think the role of political parties and government is to set the right settings and then let people get on with making those choices. But our current settings are pushing people to invest in property. And so we are effectively saying, if you want to save for your retirement at the moment, the most secure and profitable way to do that is to buy a bunch of rental properties. So we're treating housing and homes like investment rather than...
We might have been, but more and more people are turning to KiwiSaver and looking at that as their key to a happy, healthy retirement.
Some are, and we would love to see that become compulsory and increase the contributions
That's
to KiwiSaver
another
as well.
key plank of your economic policy.
Exactly, yeah. But it's still pretty minuscule compared to where the investment in property is in New Zealand. And, you know, I get that this is a huge change for New Zealanders. We've grown up in this system, and everybody's just done exactly what the system settings have, you know, said that they should do. My parents' generation, I can completely see it amongst, you know, my parents, their friends, and we don't want to punish that, but we do need to make a change. Otherwise, my kids are not going to be able to afford a house by the time they are at working age. You know, it could be 10 to 15 times their income versus 7 times which I paid versus 3 times what my parents paid. So clearly we can't continue this trajectory, and we need to just look at what are the economic settings to get this economy going so that New Zealand can be a thriving, productive place.
We'll take a break. When we come back, we have some questions for the leader of the Opportunity Party. The Opportunity Party. Kule Wong is in studio till 11 o'clock, taking your calls, your questions. News Talk ZB 1017.
Want the easiest way to find out what's happening on News Talk ZB?
Awesome
Download our free
ads.
your house and yes, ventilator today. This year for having some succeeding
Holy ad.
Listen, I get called both.
Okay.
Kule is good for people to recognise.
Yes, I think Kule, given we're quite formal. This is our first formal meeting.
Yes.
I think we'll stick. I won't go as far as Ms. Wong, but I will. Kule. Peter, a very good morning to you. You might be asking a question I wanted to ask.
Yes, thank you. Great. My interest is quite interested in opportunity, and as a retired person, and I've searched through your your manifesto, so to speak. Just if you can expand on what you're interested in around those in retirement age.
Yeah, on whether we would raise the age?
No, just in general.
Just in general.
Okay. What's in it for retirees? Is that what you're asking, Peter?
Yeah.
Oh, not in it for me, but just you're targeting an earlier age group. So carry on.
Why should retirees care?
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's a great question. We do actually, as I mentioned earlier, we do get a lot of retirees and older people coming along to our events and things as well. It's amazing hearing their reasons for supporting us, which is really about thinking about the next generation and how they can make sure that their kids and their grandkids are going to stay here. They might go overseas and travel, but come back and build a life here. I think many are concerned that they might be watching their grandkids grow up via Zoom in Australia or in other parts of the world. And so obviously we should always vote like this. We should always vote for the greater good and the next generation, but sometimes it's hard and we vote in our own self-interest. So I think for many retirees, that is what's top of mind. I think things like the land tax, even there are people who might be worse off who are retirees, but they're willing to take that hit for their kids and their grandkids.
Yeah, a lot won't though, because it's just not practical.
But a lot might not. But I
how
think
are they
when
going to live if they have to pay a land tax? They might be asset rich and income poor.
Yeah, so we've proposed a deferral scheme. We've proposed a long implementation plan. So it's not all going to happen tomorrow. We still have to get into Parliament and we have to get other parties to agree to this. This is a long-term plan, but we want to encourage this conversation for New Zealanders. And I think it's really great that we're getting so many questions about tax because people recognise that our economic settings are not right in this country. And if we want a hope of having an exciting aspirational future for the next generation, we need to look at both our tax settings and lots of other things, investment in R&D and innovation as well.
Would you raise the age of eligibility for the super?
So the challenging thing here, I think, is people who do work in those manual jobs and, different
If they take
people...
it early and get less.
Yeah, potentially. So I think it's a good conversation to have.
I'm sick of conversations. We need a party to pin their colours to the mast and say, this is what is going to happen around retirement.
Yeah, we've not really had a proper conversation. Something which would be quite interesting is it would be a citizens' assembly on superannuation, because then you'd get everyday people, age 65 and age 18, sitting down together and talking about what is a fair solution for not just people today, but people who are now 30, people who are now 5.
Yeah, but who has time? That's why we're seeing such a lack of participation in local government, because people don't have time. They're working, and it's lovely to sit down and have a chat.
But the danger is, I think, then if we take that approach, then democracy continues to get eroded away. And Ireland is a great example here. They had a national citizens' assembly on marriage equality and abortion, which are two big topics for a Catholic country. And that engagement, it's not just about reaching a decision, it's actually about getting citizens engaged in these topics.
You talk about your commitment to Te Tiriti and Treaty of Waitangi and having Māori voices on the assemblies. Yeah. Do you not trust that Māori will be able to be represented by putting up their hand and saying, yes, I'll be a part of it? Would you preserve places for Māori?
So we haven't actually come up with that proposed. That would be part of kind of implementing this policy proposal. I think that it is similar to the concept of Māori seats or Māori wards. Yeah, so
which
it
are being done away with
in some places, and some people are still supportive. So yeah, I think that requires some proper thought and consultation with the public on what's fair.
It's one of your key platforms, is that assembly.
Yes. Yeah.
So where do Māori sit in that?
I think that's something that we have to look at once we're in and actually designing. The first year of implementing that would be actually looking at what are the settings going to be, what does the public needs a chance to...
I think, because look, Top is never going to become like a big party, same thing with Greens or actor runs it first. National and Labour will always be the biggest thing. So like, I don't think their messaging and Modi stuff needs to be that big. Their whole thing is right now is tax reform and not retarded economic policy, which I respect a lot. Yeah, I don't know what exactly they would need to do to like actually get Modi votes, because like I don't think Modi will vote for them, because like there's no real need. Like there is no like the average Modi is like a working class person, so like this is a small party. They should not be like pandering to the Modi vote. I don't need, obviously optically it look bad if if they like talk shit about it, but yeah, I don't think there's a need for them to actually like make an incentive for the Modi vote.
To provide their feedback on how those should be set up as well. So do we do them online? Do we do them locally in different communities? And what is the role of Māori kind of participation in that? I think that's something that we need public input on.
News Talk ZB 1025.
Lotto tickets
Holy
are a fine
ads.
game, but for beer,
and 0800 600 026 or visit mshomecare.com.
save on our free iHeart app.
Very good morning to you.
Hello.
Hi.
Good morning.
I just wanted to say that I'm a supporter and I'm pleased to see the relative success of the party. And it's like, yeah, it's pretty cool.
Thanks, Ryan. Yeah.
Why is that, Ryan? What attracts you to the Opportunity Party?
Well, I'm 18 this year, so this is going to be my first time voting.
This guy's politically misinformed. Nah, like it's good that young people are voting and they're getting more conscious about everything. But like I brought it up on stream. There's a difference between being politically conscious. There's a difference between being politically conscious and politically like engaged. When you're politically conscious, you actually understand like the underlying ideology you have and like pragmatically where you should be voting. Like for example, like, I don't agree with like 40% of what Labour does, but I understand that like if I'm a Labour member or a Labour voter, I'll get more of what I want, because obviously we're in a democracy. I can't get everything because we don't live in an autocracy based on my ideals. But if you're just politically engaged, that just means you're angry and you're trying to throw your anger at like a certain party, or like being like, oh, this person speaks to me, so I'm gonna throw my vote here.
And I sort of saw the other options that parties are currently in Parliament, and I was just like, these are all kind of not good.
Was there anything about our policies and messages that you did like?
Yes. I think that the tax reset thing is pretty cool.
Nice.
Ryan, honestly, I'm a lot
Why do you sound like Eric Cartman? Tax policy reset's pretty cool.
older than you, and I look at both main parties and think, oh, you're driving me, well, not driving me to drink, but you're driving me to distraction. You know, it's like...
And I don't like it. Like, Labour's trying, dude. Okay, leave them alone. Like, they're trying to implement new taxes to get more funding. But, like, again, remember, like, Labour's a broad tent party. There's a lot of people in the Labour coalition, whether they're they used to be national voters who've moved into Labour because they feel like Labour's more sensible when it comes to actually giving utilities to the people, or whether it's, you know, centre-left people or even Soc Dems. Like, there's a big tent there. So they obviously can't do everything in under the sun. So yeah, it just sucks, man, that Labour never gets like their like kudos for what they do. It just sucks.
Like, come on, more of the same and more failings and I mean, they really annoy me, but I have to make a pragmatic decision about where I think, however imperfect, the best direction might be, and just not having any kind of political...
Like, because Labour leads in Mount Albert, there is actually a chance that her running in Mount Albert and trying to galvanize support, it'll make it so a national MP wins because of how the split vote will work. Like, it just sucks that, like, sure, if you want a certain level of progress, you want to vote for a different candidate, but it just sucks the fact that, like, this will split Mount Albert between people who are more for a progressive tax system and people who want to give Labour more power in Parliament. And it's going to end up, I think, giving National the seat in Mount Albert. So, like, I'm calling it now, but let's see how we do it. Let's see how we do in the election. But yeah,
experience makes me wary of a new party, because you look at what, like, look what happened when Winston Peters anointed Jacinda Ardern in the Labour government.
Yeah.
Chris Hipkins himself said, "Oh, you know, we weren't ready for government." And it's like, dude, you were there for 9 years. What were you doing? You know.
Well, I think we've had a few decades or more of just career politicians, and I don't think
it's hard to obviously fight it, because like if you tell someone, oh, everything is all right, you know, just give your vote to the party you think is going to make the most changes, that will fix the system. But like, populist rhetoric has kind of poisoned everything. Like, there's a difference between like a legislator and a politician. Like, a politician is just trying to sell himself to you so he can get a vote and get into power. But like, a legislator is there to like this is a controversial take, but like, Biden was a very good leader, like a very good president. Like, he was a good legislator. He got into Congress. It was a 50-50 split between the House and the Senate, and he got legislation passed for the US. It sucks though because he wasn't on social media every day like Trump is, and because he wasn't actively messaging for himself, he never got that shit through. Like the Inflation Reduction Act that he passed is probably one of the most significant like bills passed in Congress, probably in the last like 8-10 years, give or take. So yeah, I don't know, man. It's just very cringe.
Political experience is necessarily equating to progress and success for New Zealand. So
neither is naivety when it comes to managing the political levers.
Yeah, and I don't think I'm going to be Prime Minister. I'm not
I don't know. Jacinda Ardern didn't think she was going to be Prime Minister 6 months before the, the 17 election.
I mean, of course, I think that there's certainly stuff for us to learn. We're really grateful we have someone like Ian Lees-Galloway, who's our party GM, who can help to steer with his experience of being in cabinet. And having that support from advisors as part of the team is critical. We've also got candidates who have worked in Parliament. Dr. Caleb Kingdon-Bebb was the Director of Policy at DOC, so they understand the inner workings as well. And I think bringing some of that freshness is needed. We'll do our hard work and learn the ropes and get to know the halls of Parliament, but we will also challenge the status quo because I think that is very needed.
News Talk ZB, it's 10:31.
You think Biden was good? Yeah, no, Biden was based, okay? He's a king, okay? He just sucked shit at messaging, like the biggest thing. Like, Trump can unironically sleep on camera, and like the entire like Republican like media outlet will like spin a defense for him. But like, Biden like trips up some stairs once, and it's like the end of the world.
See this and more from Inside Economics at nzherald.co.nz. Back to Kerry Woodham.
Thank you very much, Jodie and Kule Wong, who's here in studio. Your guest has just lost any credibility to me as a farmer. It's bunkum that farmers rely on astronomical gains for future payback. Land appreciation has been less than inflation in recent years. Is that what the real intent is to tax? Says Wayne. And I'm 56, says Mark, just become mortgage-free last month through no influence of our own. Our property is now valued around $3 million. With a property tax of 1.75, we'd be taxed over $50,000. Is it their intention to force me out of my home? I only earn $80,000 per year.
This is nothing. Remember, like I brought this up previously on stream. The land tax is a decent idea, but it needs to be very, very like targeted. And it should be the case that, like, for example, when you look at rural properties, it should not be a broad thing to rural properties. It should specifically be to lifestyle properties, because I have no sympathy for people who have lifestyle properties getting taxed on their property value. Because these people, trust me, they have the money for it. Like, if they're willing to pay extra just for the luxury of going out and fucking off to the middle of nowhere, with their like tech job, with their high paying like like commercial job, like I don't give a fuck, okay? Tax them all you want. But like people who are in farming, like these people, like that property they're on, it's not that they're just sitting in the rural land for the sake of it. Like they can only do their job there. So yeah, I think the land tax should mostly just affect people who are either having lifestyle properties or either lifestyle properties or they're the word's not coming to me. Or are rent seekers, there you go, like landlords, stuff like that. Because like those people are just sit on an asset that is not really productive. It's just a commodity that people need to access.
Seriously worried that it's a greed tax. And Bruce, you wanted to talk land tax too?
Yes, I had some interest about basing the future of salvaging our economy on land tax and the supposed expected increase in property values. I mean, there was some disturbing statistic that 60% of our current farms and large agricultural properties will be coming up for succession.
Yeah, so like I brought this up previously, last stream and this stream I'm going to say it again so you guys understand. The biggest problem about the land tax as it is that it's not specific. You need to make it so that farms are left out of it because their businesses can only be done on these. But like people who have like lifestyle properties, who are like got their tech job or their commercial like investing job and are coming into the rural areas to like fuck off from old pause. Okay, fuck those people. Okay, tax them to like infinity. Okay, those people you can tax them fine. But like farmers, I think we should just leave alone because like there's already so much pressure on them, and they're also affected by the economy. They're not rent seekers; they're actually trying to produce in the economy. So I think not giving them that tax burden was actually like a good thing. But yeah.
In the next 10 to 15 years, and there's no one who will be able to buy them. If you link back to the fact that, as they worry about with superannuation, that currently there are 13 earners per person on super, and in 10 to 15 years' time there will be 2 earners per person on super. It's the same ratio as there's no one available to buy them.
What it means,
people are retiring.
It means rested. I'm guessing it meant tested. It means tested land tax. You could means tested, but I think the thing with farmers, remember how I said that you want to give like tax breaks to like productive people. So like for example, like giving a tax break to like let's say like landlords' debt, that's not a good thing because like housing is not a productive asset, it's a commodity, whereas like a farm is a productive asset like constantly.
And the young purchasing age is diminishing. So is this really the salvation of our economy? What if no one wants to buy any of these properties? How are we going to then tax anybody?
Well, I think this comes back to the broader economic settings, and it's not just looking at land tax on its own, but looking at our whole tax system. So that includes the citizens' income. And so under this tax reset, we actually estimate that 70.
Yeah, and again, remember, I've already set my positions on UBI. I think UBI is not really the way forward. I think what we should be doing is finding more ways of tinkering with the tax system and adding up. Because right now, like how income tax was proposed when it was first proposed ages fucking ago, like centuries ago, almost at this point, like everybody was making just a flat income, but now people have these like different tax breaks and these different ways of putting capital to the markets or putting them to stock market. Like it's just more complicated now, so you got to add more systems to then bring value to the government, which the government can distribute into utilities for like people who don't make as much. I think later on, maybe UBI might be a thing we should look at, but as of now, I'm not really convinced in the UBI argument.
20% of New Zealanders will be better off. They will have more money in their pockets. 20% will be about net neutral, so they'll be paying the land tax what they receive in a citizen's income. So that includes everyone, farmers.
Also, like UBI is like an inflationary policy. Like the other things that we were talking about, they're not inflationary, but UBI is an inflationary policy because that's basically what the COVID checks were. It was a UBI because you're gonna get people buying too many goods, there'll be too few money chasing too few goods. So that's like outwardly an inflationary policy.
Urban centres, most people will actually receive more in that citizens' income than they have to pay back. So I think that will actually get the economy moving. There'll be more money for people to spend. They'll be able to afford their groceries, their fuel bills, to send their kids to school in full school uniform. That's all good for the economy, and that's really, I think, one of the key things that we need to break through this slow kind of economic malaise that we've been in for such a long time. Of course, it's not a silver bullet, and of course there are challenges around transition because it's a big thing for New Zealand. But I think unless we continue to just accept the status quo and the slow managed decline, nothing is going to change.
Craig, you have a question about reforming the system?
Yeah, my question's on welfare. There's not a Kiwi out there, hardworking Kiwi, that doesn't want to help people when they're down on their luck. Every hardworking Kiwi resents the fact that you can get people straight out of school onto welfare and almost make a career out of it. You can get people with the domestic purposes benefit, have multiple children whilst on domestic purposes benefit. What's opportunity going to do to bring welfare back to what it's meant to be?
So, thanks for the question, Craig. It's really interesting looking at the pilots of where they've had citizens' income tested in different parts of the world, and it actually doesn't increase unemployment. What it does is give people the space and the trust to get on with their lives and do something meaningful. And I think, of course, there might always be people that are going to game the system, but if we can remove a lot of that bureaucracy and MSD, we estimate that we could save 2,000 jobs and redirect that to making sure that people...
I brought this up before, but like remember, like the biggest thing right now in politics is people's like, how do I actually phrase this? I brought this up before, but like people have to understand that, okay, all of our politics is a perspective problem. Like let's take welfare for example. Some people, like if you're on a right spectrum, you'll say that 4% of people are abusing the system. They could get employment, so we need to either cut back on welfare, we need to scrap it. Whereas someone on the left wing will be like, why are you going to cut back and scrap this program that only 4% of people are abusing? Like, it's all a perspective issue. It has nothing really to do with the fundamental problem.
People are properly training, getting the support that they need, getting out to find jobs that are going to be meaningful for them. At the moment, you've got that people have to jump through so many hoops, and they're applying for jobs that they have no intention of getting because they have to tick a box. I think if we can redirect that support to meaningfully helping people get on their feet, then we will be in a stronger position.
Why, if we're all going to be net neutral pretty much, because the citizens' income is $370 a week for most adults, why, if most of us will be net neutral, do you not just go after the 10% that you're really after?
Well, I think because it's about the incentives of the broader settings, and that's what partly the land tax is there for, is to say to people, to New Zealanders, we don't think that you should only grow your wealth through property. We think that you should invest in shares and businesses and all of those things as well, because that's good for the economy, and you can still grow your wealth that way. Whereas if we did something like a wealth tax, which I believe the Greens have proposed in the past, and might be proposing again, that's really just going after that top whatever percentage that they're claiming. And I think that the message and the incentive that sends is we don't want you to grow your wealth. Whereas what we're saying is we still want you to grow your wealth, we just don't want you to do it all through property.
Congratulations on your appointment. Your policies really resonate with me. As an ACT national voter in the past, I'm very close to giving you my vote.
Holy. ACT and national. The duopoly of Satan. Holy shit. Okay. But yeah, as I was saying, like right now, biggest problem, housing is supposed to be a commodity, not an asset.
But any chance of you forming a coalition with the Greens is a non-negotiable for me. Please clarify the party's position.
Yeah, I think if you're economically literate in New Zealand, I think the biggest problem right now is just any sort of partnership with the Greens, because I think Greens have like an economically retarded position when it comes to anything finance related or tax related or economy related. Like this is an evil take, but like if you really want to increase the tax base, you got to increase taxes on the poor. And what I mean by that is like the lower income earners, because there's just so many of them. Like if you increase the tax rate of the rich, like I think I did the calculation on this. If you take the most highest income earners in New Zealand and up their tax percentage by 1%, it'll get you like a couple $100 million. Whereas if you do it on like the lowest strata of society, it'll give you like, it'll put in the billions. It's a crazy number. So yeah, like it's a tough decision to have. It's basically political suicide. But like, if you really want to change the tax funding, yeah, that's like you should be targeting the low class people, which is evil, but it is just the fact of the matter.
Oh, thank you for the question. We do get this a lot from both sides.
There's a lot of questions here.
Yeah, we get it from both, more traditional left-wing voters and traditional right-wing voters. The reality is we believe we need a strong centrist party to drive more stability going forward.
And remember, it's not about centrism. Politics is no longer left or right wing, okay? That died when the moment Trump got elected the first time, okay? Populism and anti-populism is what we're fighting on, okay? We're fighting between people who aren't retarded and people who are retarded. This is the major contention.
Forward. So we're going to have a national-led government 50% of the time, most likely. We're going to have a Labour-led government 50% of the time. Wouldn't you rather a party like Opportunity that can hold them accountable to moving forward than pulling...
Yeah, and it is good to have like as I said, like Greens right now have kind of become more of like a, say, Democratic Socialist Party. Like they've become more interested in like left economic policy than they have green policy, ironically enough. So I think her position on progressive tax, but fiscal and economic responsibility, I think is a very good position. So I think not the next election cycle, but the one after that and the one after that one, I think they'll become more prominent in the coalition between them and Labour. I think will be very productive for society.
Both sides further to the extremes. So I'd say if you are a traditional ACT or national voter, there are clear areas where we can work with that coalition if that's the case. If it's the case that Labour does pull ahead, I think, for those people, a Labour Opportunity government is going to be closer to what they want to see than what a Labour Greens government would be. That is, we're not going to pick a side because I think that tribalism is really one of the things that's killing New Zealand.
Yeah, but people want to know who they're voting for.
They're voting for us and our policies.
Yeah, but in partnership with a main party.
Yeah.
And you don't have a preference.
We could work with either one, and we'll be really clear getting closer to the election what our bottom lines are, so that voters can have confidence what we're going to push for in a coalition agreement, and what we won't accept. So things that we would walk away from. We'll be really clear on that.
So do you see yourselves as New Zealand First 2.0?
In some ways, I suppose, maybe trying to displace them a bit. And I think if I make the comparison to New Zealand First, what they've done is try and be a handbrake to both sides, whereas we really...
As I said, the whole fight right now in politics is not left or right wing. It's populism and anti-populism. If you want to boil it down, it's retards versus non-retards. NZ First right now, if you're not aware, is like our right-wing populist party. And yeah, it is the most retarded shit, like point blank. And I think she's using very soft language, mostly because A, she's on air, and B, because I don't think the word retard is part of a vernacular. But it truly is like deplorable that people came up with very responsible financial positions when it comes to how our fiscal situation is, how our economic situation is, and Winston Peterson come out with his nose in the air and be like, yeah, I don't mind corruption blatantly if it's my side doing it because it's based in red pill.
We see ourselves as an accelerator to the future. We want to keep both, whether it's Labour or National, moving forward, focused on what's going to be best for the next generation and actually making those changes that are needed. Maybe hard, but very much needed.
News Talk ZB, it is 16 to 11.
Just because you own a business, it doesn't mean your life is split into.
Let's go. Oh yeah, it's okay.
News Talk ZB.
News Talk ZB. Do gang members, drug dealers, convicted criminals also get the citizens' income?
Oh, it's a big group of people. If so, it's similar to the current benefit, where if you're in prison, you wouldn't be receiving it.
Yeah, that might. Wait.
That could be directed to, say, children.
Okay, that's good.
If you're out of prison, then you would.
Okay. Scott, you have a question.
I think it's hard to say. Maybe certain crimes like murder, rape, or even I would even say tax evasion. I think maybe should, if you want to implement that UBI policy, should exclude you from that. Yeah.
Jim. Oh no, you're in a dodgy area. I'll put you on hold and we will come back to you. Graham, good morning to you.
Yeah, hi Kerry.
Hi.
A question for the opposition, the leader of top. So your tax policy, it's just redistributive. So you're going to tax people a land tax, and then you're going to hand it back in terms of a UBI to some people and not to others. If you earn over 150,000, don't own a house, then you get a tax break. If you earn 150,000 and do, then you are getting taxed and then getting some money back. So it doesn't particularly appear to grow wealth at all. It's just the usual kind of left wing redistributing wealth, as Thomas Sowell said. If you try and redistribute wealth, or you
oh my God, he's the Thomas Sowell. Thomas Sowell is a decent economist, but can we not? This is New Zealand, bro. Can I just leave the American shit in America? I don't want to have to deal with it here. But he's kind of right. It is a redistributive policy, but the whole point of the government and of taxes and of fucking anything is to get collect wealth into like a pool and then deploy it to the people who need it the most. That is the point. Because I don't want to live in like an anarchic society where the poor are just stealing because they can barely feed themselves or whatever. So like, I don't know if this guy's against welfare or whatever, but like, yeah, it's just stupid that we're having this conversation. I think if you really want to like give her a very like hard question, is just ask her if like UBI is an inflationary policy, because it is objectively. So she has to combat that and say there's other utility you're getting out of the inflationary policy.
What's it going to do to tax credits for working for families and other welfare policies that are currently already in place? There's no detail on your website or anywhere as to how that happens. You also talk about breaking up monopolies, supermarkets, banks, building suppliers, all being done before. What are you going to do that's different? And as for your experience relying on Lee Galloway, are you for real? Like, the guy left Parliament under a cloud of having relationships with one of his co-workers. So, be interested to hear what you have to say about all that.
There was a lot. Okay, thank you, Graham. Thank you very much.
So if we start with the
universal basic income,
universal basic income, citizens' income. So, and kind of your reference that it's just a left-wing policy. It is actually, if you're on a high income and you don't own land under this tax reset, you could be better off. So it is about incentivizing different kinds of behaviours. It's not just about additional handouts. This is about changing the system so that people behave differently, and we want them to grow businesses and to put that money back into their employees, into their businesses, and invest for the future, not just use those profits to buy rental properties. So I think it is actually similar to what something like National or ACT would campaign on. We want people to keep more of the wealth that they grow through investing in business, and so I think that it's different from what a Labor or Greens tax policy is advocating.
And
for.
working for families would be scrapped because you wouldn't need it.
So there are some benefits which are replaced by the citizens' income, but we do remain some top-ups for things like disability allowance, housing supplements, child support, where those are genuinely needed. But it does simplify that bureaucracy so that people, those people working in working income and MSD can focus their efforts on the ones that actually need that support.
What about retirees? Would it replace the super?
It would to an extent, but we remain those top-ups as well for super. So nobody would be receiving less than what they currently are. We would maintain and keep that level of super for current super annuitants.
And how would you break up the monopolies?
Yeah, so we are releasing our full productivity policy very shortly.
Man, I hope. Obviously, she talked a lot about progressive tax policies, but I really, 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 really hope that because right now, like obviously the states has really good antitrust laws now. They like using them and not is a different issue. But like we have really bad like anti-monopoly laws, or at least I haven't. Okay, I should not make a strong claim. I haven't read them, but like they haven't been applied, at least bare minimum, if we have any. So like my biggest problem right now is like things like Woolworths or Pack and Save or New World, they've kind of monopolized our like supermarket sector, and like there's an argument to be made that they can do it because they have the funding to then make all these like different local grocery stores, so that is the only real alternative. But it just sucks that we have, for example, you've got your farmers, then your middlemen distributors, and then your supermarkets. The problem is the supermarkets, because there are these massive conglomerates and they basically monopolize the market. They are the price setters. So like they can basically make these massive margins of like 300% profit to what they're selling, and the middlemen and the farmers get jack shit in comparison to that. And again, as I said, there is a reason for it. A, they have the capital to deploy, and B, because they actually have the facilities to actually do this. But like, I hope not only that she talks about progressive tax policy, but also reforming like our monopoly laws and stuff like that.
So I can't kind of reveal the full details, but I completely agree with you here that we have had successive governments, endless reports from the Commerce Commission about how to address our supermarket duopoly, how to address the banking sector, constructing building supplies. We know that we have a concentration of monopolies in New Zealand.
Okay, that's good. And she's talking about it.
Needs more teeth to implement some of those recommendations. They just present a nice report and then the ministers say thank you and then don't do anything about it. So there will be more detail on that coming out in our productivity policy, which has a specific focus on competition.
All right, and Scott, we're in a better area now.
Yes, I've moved, thankfully.
Okay, there we go. Question for Billy.
Just regarding your earlier comments about the farming businesses and growing crops that would...
How would you solve our monopoly problem? You can't... The problem is, like, in the States, for example, like, they broke up Standard Oil into, like, 19 different companies, like, 9 different companies, I can't remember. I don't think you can do that exactly here, but I think maybe adding some laws where... Because right now I think Woolworths outright owns either Pack and Save or New World. Or I think it's Pack and Save owns New World. So maybe making it so like these kind of mergers cannot exist. So there's more competition between these guys. I think that's probably the best way you can do it. I don't like, in my mind, I don't think there's another way. Because there's other like for example, Fletcher's is another monopoly in New Zealand. Yeah, it's just a hard topic. You really need lawyers to go on this because you got to make it something that's legally viable and economically viable.
Make more money for farmers. Do you not think that they would already be growing if they could be making more money already?
Oh, I'm sure many are, and I have met many who are, and what the stories that I've heard, which are really encouraging, is that diversity. So it's not just having one single thing, because you might have a bad year in one crop and not in another, and so having that variety and that diversity within what's reasonable to manage, I think is a really positive thing that many farmers are already doing.
Right.
Versus having one, and I have met.
Do you not think that they would already be growing crops? Just regarding your earlier comments about the farming businesses and growing crops that would make more money for farmers, do you not think that they would already be growing them if they could be making more money already?
Oh, I'm sure many are, and I have met many who are, and what the stories that I've heard, which are really encouraging, is that diversity. So it's not just having one single thing, because you might have a bad year in one crop and not in another, and so having that variety. And
I can speak to this with some confidence because I've got some connections in the rural sector. Farmers do like different crops and they have a diversity. They don't have all their eggs in one basket. I can't speak to the outdoor growers, but definitely the indoor growers. The biggest problem right now is they can put crates at the market. It'll just sit there for like 2-3 days without selling because there's no demand. Like as I said, if we have a demand side problem in our economy, not a supply side problem.
And that diversity within what's reasonable to manage, I think is a really positive thing that many farmers are already doing.
I mean, as a farmer myself, we've tried lots of different crops and different systems, and not all are obviously suited. And I just it just sounded like a very easy political speak, I suppose, just sort of washing over the fact that farmers are already doing everything they can to make a living, and there is no magic bullet. Not that anyone's done.
Yeah, appreciate that. No, and it's great to hear your perspective directly. So thank you for that. I think that what we want to do is incentivise and reward those farmers that are doing that more, because farmers have had a lot of stick and not much carrot in recent times around how to get the best out of your farmland. So I would love to see a government that supports, the right thing to do in more ways, so that you can experiment more, try different things, figure out what works, and we can help to showcase that.
I'm not sure about funding experimentation across farms, but there we go. News Talk ZB, it is 6 minutes to 11.
More ads. Let's get this bread. Let's do it here.
News Talk ZB. I'm talking with Kule Wong, the leader of the Opportunity Party. Who's Kerry talking with? ATM. That's who I'm talking with. Ian Lees-Galloway. People are sceptical about his involvement with the party. They don't rate him.
Fair enough. Look, everyone makes mistakes, and he made some mistakes this time in Parliament. All I can judge him on is the last 7 months of working with him, and I have nothing but great things to say. I guess if people want additional other examples of experience, we've also got Jackie Blue, who's a former National MP, who's been working as an advisor and supporter as well. Ultimately, it's me and our candidates who are the ones that are in Parliament and making these decisions. We will be leading our team the way that we see fit, but I think it doesn't hurt to have those grey hairs of experience that can give us some pointers as well.
Yeah, I don't think it was so much the affair between consenting adults. I think it's more the ineffectual minister thing that they were a bit grumpy about.
Oh, right.
But we haven't even touched on the minister's allowances, the MP's allowances, the minister's allowances. Haven't even touched on the public transport policy, and we're out of time, just like that.
Gosh, that'd be quick.
Doesn't it go quick? Okay. Now, we always ask our interviewees what song they'd like to go out on. So we'll ask you, what would you like to go out on? This one.
This is one. Supercut by Lorde. I watched her at Glastonbury in the UK, and just was such a proud moment being a Kiwi. So love this song.
This is kind of like tell me you're agreeing without telling me you're agreeing. I pick Lorde. No,
or I'm a millennial.
Exactly. Or you're a proud Kiwi. Yeah. That's right. No, I mean, having listened, I'm certainly going to be listening more to the policy and thinking about it a bit more, drilling down a bit more.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I think a progressive views and tax is not that dog shit. I think the best way I can put it. I like the fact that we're having the discussion at least about making our tax base more wider and making it more progressive. I like her takes on business and finance. I think the UBI is a bit retarded because it is a naturally inflationary policy, and I don't think this is the time to implement something like this, especially something that's not means tested. That's the best way I can put it. If I remember correctly, I think I had a video over here somewhere that I wanted to watch. I think, this.
The ambitious goal for the New Zealand agriculture sector. Federated Farmers wants to double farm productivity. And
I'm going to quickly just do something on my stream shit. If you guys want to drop any questions in a chat, I can answer them up once I've finished this up. Let's see. That's dealt with. I'll leave that there. Do you guys have any questions? That's the real thing. How's UBI inflationary? Well, it's inflationary because you're putting it's just more money chasing fewer goods. That's why UBI is inflationary. Like adding UBI because you want to get some utility out of it is a different like question to ask. But like just by the fact of the matter, UBI is an inflationary policy. Like that can't even be debated. All right, cool. I'm done with that. Let's get back to this.
Ahead of field days next week, they've laid out a list of policy priorities for the next government. Fed Farmers President Wayne Langford is with us this morning. Tēnā koe, Wayne. Good morning.
Yeah, morning, Jack.
Broadly speaking, what will it take to double farm productivity in New Zealand?
Yeah, I think the key word in there is productivity. So the government has a clear goal of doubling the value of farm exports. Productivity means that we want a few of those profits to stay within the farm gate as well. So it's not just about doubling production for us. It's making sure that our farmers and our rural communities are also getting the benefit of that as well.
And there'll be some people who hear double productivity and immediately think you are saying that New Zealand farmers need to double their stock numbers. Presumably, an increase in productivity means both improvements in farm productivity through practices, but also some changes to stocking levels over time.
Yeah, that's right. We're going to look at what we're doing. We're going to get more efficiencies in terms of how we're producing our food, and then we're going to get more efficiencies in terms of producing a little bit more. But we're certainly not going to double production by doubling the number of animals out there in New Zealand.
You would have to increase the number of animals, though, right?
There will be in certain places, and we've seen.
Yeah, productivity is not like just producing the good itself. It's making so the inputs are less in comparison to the outputs. That's productivity. Like the input can be labor or capital or land. That's the point of productivity.
Time, I think. You look at the 70s when the main thing was the main income driver. Was the wool club across New Zealand. Now, obviously, it's dairy, and who knows where it's going to be in another 30 years' time.
Would you anticipate that doubling productivity would mean increasing dairy numbers in New Zealand?
I think we're seeing a little bit of a rise in dairy numbers at the moment, and it's expected dairy's going pretty well. It's in a great place. A number of that growth area is coming from the arable sector, which, to be fair and acknowledge the arable farmers listening here today, they are going through a really tough time. They're below break even in terms of what they're making, while the rest of the sectors are really humming along. Red meat, dairy, and the other sectors are going really well. So that's why we're seeing conversion of dairy into dairyland in Canterbury.
Yeah, right. Okay, we'll talk about that in a moment, but let's run through some of these specific policy priorities. So you've laid out 25 for this year's election in order to double productivity. Your top line is the introduction of national standards across a whole range of different areas, from vegetable growing to solar to effluent management and farm quarries. Why?
Well, let's take a step back. 3 years ago, you and I sat here and we introduced our election platform for where we were sitting then. That was all about restoring farmer confidence and getting the confidence back into farming so that farmers can invest in what they're doing. They can improve their practices on farm, and they effectively knew where they're going. We've seen farmer confidence go from record lows to record highs, and we've done that just in 3 years.
I don't have much connection to like animal farmers, but this is just not true of anybody who grows like crops. Like our confidence in the market is super low when it comes to these things. I just don't get it.
Even when I put the Restoring Farmer Confidence title on my election platform, never did I expect it to go from where we were to where we are now. That's great. That's fantastic. But where we have to go next is the specifics. It does get around to that. We've done the easy bit, the slashing of kind of the big red tape, the big ticket items. Let's get into what are some of these small things that will actually make a big difference on farm.
So let's talk through these national standards though.
I can see some of these comments. Yeah, holy based. Yep, this sums this up. It's like just cut the regulations and just trust me, bro.
Farming environments have big regional differences, right?
Like the regulations aren't even the problem in farming. Like they're obviously like I'm not gonna say here and seriously tell you that it's like a complete nothing burger. But the problem with farming is the fact that no one's got like the purchasing power to buy our shit. Like we're producing stuff, but no one's buying. That's the fucking problem.
So why would a standard for effluent management that was suitable on the wet West Coast also be suitable in the Mackenzie Basin?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I think that can certainly be worked on around the basics, and there'll be certain criteria within regions. But what we want to acknowledge is that where we were 20 years ago with effluent management is significantly different to where we are now. And of course, we will always have headlines. We'll always say, hey, some farmers have made some mistakes here. Some issues have gone on. We've seen that in Wellington City as well at the moment, right? They've had a huge mistake there. And so, but ultimately as a whole, let's take the pressure off effluent management because we think we've got that in a really good place. And let's move our attention to an area that we can get more bang for buck.
But so just so I understand why a national standard would be appropriate for something like effluent management, which is one of the areas where you say there should be national standards, and fertiliser application. So why should we have a national standard for something like that when there are really big regional differences?
Yeah, so the national standard would set a layer of activity around what's happening there, and so it's not a right to do whatever you want. It's simply saying, hey, these are the criteria that you work on. If you want to go past that, then you will need to go further, and you'll need to.
So it would still allow for some regional variability.
Yes,
for example, the effluent management plan for a farm on the West Coast would not automatically be the same as one for the McKenzie.
What we're saying is, this is the permitted activity for effluent management. If you can stay within that, then it is a permitted activity in your area, and you can go ahead and do that. Now, if you want to go outside of that, then like I say, you have to apply for consent.
So you've been lobbying to replace resource consents with farm plans to reduce the cost of regulatory compliance. What is the risk with that kind of approach?
I don't see any risk when you look at where we've gone with resource consents and what we're achieving. I think putting it back into the farmers' hands to achieve it themselves and have more engagement from the farmers is far better. We don't want to get to a situation in New Zealand where we've got someone coming out to see what we're going to do, then the farmer doing it, and then someone coming out to check that they've done it right. Like farmers aren't 5-year-olds. We don't need that kind of scrutiny over top of us. As long as we have a plan and we are doing what we say in that plan, and we can attest to it if we are audited, that's fine. Then we should be able to do it. Like, let's just get on and get farming. That's what farmers are asking for. But having this overarching level of bureaucracy is just crazy.
So what is the enforceable backstop when a farm plan isn't followed?
That's when we agree that there should be a much firmer stick taken to the actions there than not. So
because that's what the resource consent allow, right?
Look at it like the IRD system, right? Like, so we're not all audited on our IRD tax returns every year, but when something is found, boy, they come in with a stick and they whack you, don't they? And that's what we're proposing here around in the agricultural space as well. So saying, hey, we've got 95, 96, 97, whatever the number is, % doing a really good job here. If you're going to come after let's not spend all the money trying to look after them. Let's go after the others.
Right. So sheep and beef farmers generally don't need consents for their work, right? But under the proposed legislation, all farms over 50 hectares would require freshwater farm plans. So why are you supporting a plan that reduces the regulatory burden for dairy farms, but arguably increases it for sheep and beef farmers?
Yeah, this is a tough question, and this is one we have battled with, and we've heard a lot from our members, and particularly our sheep and beef farmers. What we're acknowledging here is that there is a direction of travel that we're heading on, and we saw that under the last government. That they were talking hundreds of millions of dollars of fencing going into the high country, which was not going to make one iota of difference to what they were trying to achieve in the lower levels of the catchment. Right? And so what we're saying, hey, is if you're a high country farmer, let's have a farm plan. Let's understand what you're doing. Let's understand where the critical source points are on your farm. Let's understand that to a relatively basic level and appropriate with the risk involved. But let's have that rather than saying broad brush, let's fence everything. Let's keep everything around, because that's just a huge cost and it doesn't achieve the result that we're looking for.
But if we are to look at the regulatory burdens faced by different forms of farmers farming different forms at the moment, dairy farms would use resource consents much more than sheep and beef farmers, right? And so if we remove the requirement for resource consents and they have farm plans instead, but at the same time, sheep and beef farmers are expected to introduce farm plans that they previously haven't had, you are increasing the regulatory burden for sheep and beef farmers while reducing the regulatory burden for dairy farmers. So why are you favouring that when it benefits dairy farmers but arguably costs sheep and beef?
Yeah, I think what we'll find is we've got a large number of sheep and beef farms that are already doing farm plans, and that's why we are advocating for it. They're typically doing them through their processes and who they supply their meat to. So there is the opportunity there. We acknowledge this is going to be tricky for some farmers that aren't doing it. I can't deny that. But that's why it's got to be built in a way that farmers can get on board. If you look at dairy, we started 15 years ago, and we started with a map of our farm, seeing where the waterways were, identifying the critical source points and going from there, and it evolved over time. And that's what we're saying here. Hey, let's match this to the risk. Yeah. And remembering also that, yes, there are sheep and beef farms without it, but there are also sheep and beef farms under significant consent problems. Right. And we think that they can ease those by going under farm plans.
So the government is reviewing the synthetic nitrogen cap. Feed farmers want it lifted. If the cap is lifted, will nitrate levels in our waterways increase?
I don't think that we've said that we want it lifted. We've just said
do you want it lifted?
I think what the issue is there is going really kind of input based rather than looking at what's around
but that specific cap, right? Yeah. 190 is being reviewed at the moment.
What we've got to look at is what we're trying to achieve. And when you look at what agriculture and particularly farming's achieved over the last 20 years, we've done the broad brush things, right? We know how many waterways we've got fenced now. We've got effluent management well under control. That sort of thing. The great thing is we've got, I don't know what the number is, 250, 300 odd catchment groups across the country now set up to manage and help work on our waterways. The good thing is now, with the likes of what we're talking about through farm plans and other activities, we can get really specific and we can work on the areas that have got issues, and we don't have to put the investment into the areas that don't.
Can I just be totally clear on that? Give us a straight answer, because it's a binary question. They are reviewing that 190 kg cap at the moment, right? So does federated farmers want the government to lift the cap on synthetic nitrogen?
We don't have a position on that, Jack.
Right, no position either way. If that cap were to be lifted, would you expect nitrate levels in waterways to increase?
No, I don't, because I think they'd fall under the regulation within the area, and farmers are already looking under strict criteria around how they've got to reduce them in certain areas.
So one of your central areas of concern is local government. Councils are working on plans for amalgamation, but Federated Farmers opposes amalgamation of provincial areas and centres over 50,000 people. Why?
I mean, we've got to make sure that we keep the rural voice, and that's a real struggle. I mean, if you look at, I'll give Greater Wellington, use that as an example. We've got 11 councillors sitting on the council there on this side of the Rumitaka, but we've got 2/3 of the area on the other side of the Rumitaka and farmland represented by one person. And is that true representation of the farmland there and what's going on? So let's have the people that know what they're talking about, what the issues are, dealing with the issues that they're dealing with, and then allow that also within the urban and metropolitan centres.
So amalgamation is being pushed essentially for efficiency purposes, right, to try and save ratepayers money. What is the risk that you isolate regional communities from the rate-paying base that is actually necessary to help sustain their services?
That is a really good question. As we work through this process, and we don't have all the answers for this, we've got to work out how we are going to fund it, right? But we've got to separate funding out from representation because they are two different conversations going on. And so we've heard that a lot, that the money comes from the centres, or the money comes from the port or the airport or something along those lines, and then we're all going to miss out. Well, that's not necessarily the case. We can set up arrangements like what we've done in my area in Tasman and Nelson around the port and the co-investment that we have there. So there's a real opportunity there to get good results. We've just got to be careful around how we do it.
You touched on this earlier, but when you compare your priorities from this time 3 years ago with where we are now, how has this government rated from Federated Farmers' perspective?
They've been pretty strong. They have been. I can't deny that. They've still got some work to do. So, it's great that they've acknowledged that farming is the backbone of the country, and I think that was the most important thing. Do you know how hard it is to go to work every day, Jack? Get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and just feel like you're just battling away against the own people that you're trying to help. This government has said, hey, no, we're backing farmers, and that farmers are going to pull us out of the economic crisis that we're in at the moment, the cost of living crisis. We're going to back farmers to do that. And so that's great to have the support there. Have they gone as far as we'd like? Not just yet, and that's why we're suggesting some more changes come up following the election.
Yeah, it's interesting to consider the tension between promoting farmer productivity and reducing the regulatory burden with the environmental concerns that inevitably are faced by the sector.
Yeah,
right?
I know, but and that's what I worry about when I come on the show. I think, this is going to be back and forth between rural and urban. That's gone. Urban know what farmers are going for. I just met a guy down on the street and said, geez, we love you farmers. He said, he was fully in behind it. He loves it, just outside the studio here. But I guess where I'm going with that is, no, sorry, I'll let you.
So my question was, if you think about the moves of the last couple of years, right? Discharge consents have been stripped back, so you don't need resource consent necessarily for a lot of discharges that previously you needed consents for. The methane target's been softened. The nitrogen cap is currently being reviewed. Can you think of any major environmental policy the government has introduced that Federated Farmers has opposed?
I can't. No.
It's quite telling, isn't it?
I think it's telling to see where we were going and what we were doing. The environmental legislation that was coming at us was going to remove 25% of our sheep and beef farms across the country. That's more telling. That's more telling than a soundbite you'll get here from me. That is 25% of our rural communities disappearing, our schools, our nurses, our hospitals.
Not because of the methane target, not because of the nitrogen cap review, not because of those freshwater rules that have, where the regulation is being altered necessarily. I mean, I don't think anyone would dispute that there's necessarily regulations that need to be reviewed, but it's interesting to kind of consider that.
Yeah, no, where I was going with that is I think what we're acknowledging now is that farming is well on the way in terms of our environmental response. Have we still got work to do? Absolutely. You brought up nitrates. I know we've got catchments that we still need to do significant work on, 100%, but we're a heck of a lot further along than where we were, and we're going to get a heck of a lot further in the very near future.
So you're pretty pleased, generally speaking, with the performance of this government. Many of the priority areas that you have identified ahead of field days this week are all already areas where the government is looking to make some regulatory changes. What if the opposition wins? What if Labor ends up leading the next government?
That's a great question, and something I've been very conscious of as president. I've put a lot of time into investing into the Labor government and the opposition, the Green as well. Remembering that a strong opposition is also good for farmers. We're not here, we're an apolitical organisation, and we need a good government. We don't
That's good, at least. At least he's not a complete dick side.
Good parties on either side. So. But our investment there, I mean, we meet with the Labor Party now every year. A credit to Chris Hipkins, who has come on farm with us 3 years in a row now and has understood what farmers are going through. I'll give the example of our first meeting with him where he brought top 10 of their leadership along. We talked about farming issues, and I remember getting to morning tea and thinking, we're going to have to scale this back here. The knowledge around farming was quite different to where we thought we were going to go.
Yeah.
I compare that to 3 years on. He stood in front of our National Council of Federated Farmers, and he talked for 45 minutes without notes, without anything around farming issues and exactly what was coming at us, taking questions from the floor. Now, if that's where we've moved our relationship with the Labor Party from 3 years ago to where it is now, that's a credit to what's happened, and we're confident that that'll bode well should they get over the line come November.
Good luck for field days later this week. We appreciate your time, Wayne.
Yeah, no, cheers.
Thank you. Finally.
Chunk of Auckland's northern motorway a colossal waste of public money. That's what a local transport lobby group says, and it's urging the government to reconsider the public-private partnership. They say the 26-kilometre stretch from Warkworth to Te Hana could cost the public $12 billion over the decades. Connor Sharp from Greater Auckland is with us this morning. Good morning to you.
Morning.
The context for this is that we've been told this could be one of the country's most expensive roads. But the NZTA and the government's saying, well, we need it. Why don't you think we should go ahead with it?
It would be the most, as you said, the most expensive road that New Zealand would ever have built. And the last public data we've had from this, from 2019, says that the benefit cost ratio is 0.7, right? So for every dollar that we spent on this road, we're getting 70 cents back. That is not a good deal. Since then, the project cost has doubled. And there's been, the benefits aren't going to be going up either, right?
But the government, NZTA hasn't actually told us what the cost will be. Is that part of the problem? They've said, look, this is commercially sensitive, we're negotiating with the private sector here, we can't say.
Yeah, I mean, this is precisely the problem, and this is actually why, this week we've had what it actually commends, all the political parties on, a pretty mature approach to infrastructure with the agreement of the National Infrastructure Plan.
Mm-hmm.
And that has explicitly called for a new approach, especially in land transport, which is more transparent scrutiny and analysis of these major projects. This Warkworth to Tihana project has not had any of that. And so, yeah, I get that NZTA is saying that they're in this negotiation, so they can't release any information, but we are talking about a process that has led to the unsustainability of how we do transport funding in this country. So why would I accept what they're saying about this? It doesn't make sense.
How do you arrive at that $12 billion figure when they haven't actually told us?
Yeah, so the most recent sort of public estimate we've gotten that's been reported on is about $3.5 to $4 billion. That's what you do through traditional procurement, so that's kind of like the sticker price. When you go through a public-private partnership, we can compare it to other roading projects like Transmission Gully, and the total cost of that through the public-private partnership deal is about 3 times that sticker price. So, 3 times 3.5 to 4 is, a maximum value of about $12 billion.
Presumably, though, this stretch of road needs something doing to it. Does it not?
Yeah.
I mean, what, are you just saying we abandon it and do nothing, or do we just need to scale it back and have fewer bells and whistles?
Yeah, exactly. Like, there are very real problems in the stretch of highway, and in fact, in the state highway all the way from Warkworth to Whangarei. But what we're doing here is blowing what would amount to be the entire country's discretionary transport budget on this one stretch of road that, in fact, doesn't even reach Northland, right? So if you were to scale this back, there's a whole bunch of more targeted improvements you can do. You'd have money left over to then, continue improving the State Highway 1 all the way to Whangarei, including these really meaty bits which might actually require a bit more work around, say, the Benduans. And you probably have money left over to do that in a bunch of other places in the country, right?
Well, I guess that's why the rest of the country should care, right? They're saying, why are you talking about a road north of Auckland? But it's that it's chewing up a whole heap of budget.
Yeah, and they're talking about tolling, but tolling will pay for, I think if they go through a PPP, it'll pay for maybe 1 or 2 years of a 25 to 35 year contract, right? So that means everybody from Bluff to Cape Reinga is going to be subsidising this through their fuel taxes and road user charges.
Is it too late to back out of this, though? They've already got a preferred consortium. Even legally, can we pull the pin?
As far as I understand, there's no contract signed. I know their aim is by the end of July, which is why we've released this urgent call to all political parties. But I think if I was in the government's shoes, I'd be kind of looking at this. I'd be looking at the National Infrastructure Plan, and I'd be saying that, we've gone through this procurement process. We have a preferred bidder. We should be using them to actually scale this back a bit to do, those more right-sized approaches. So I think it's not too late. It does require a bit of courage, but as we've seen this week, they are politicians, but they are capable of having a mature conversation about this.
We've also sunk, presumably, an awful lot of money into this already, scoping it out, working out what needs to be done, the geotech reports, blah, blah, blah. Would that all be wasted if we abandon this?
No, you could use some, because there are going to be some, potential meaty bits on this, bit of motorway. So that's not necessarily going to be wasted. But if we do think about that, I think we've spent probably several $100 million at this point. But if we were to go through with the, all the bells and whistles, we're talking about potentially up to $12 billion. That is a significant difference, right?
So you're not talking about a complete abandonment, because I guess the big criticism of the way we've done infrastructure is that we'll go, yes, we'll do it, and then someone else comes along and go, no, we're not, and we flip-flop. So would this not be a flip-flop?
No, because what we want is for the political parties to sit together and actually work out what is a sustainable path forward for this, right? So if we take this and we have it, be reviewed by the Infrastructure Commission, as all parties want to have, see happen at the end of this year, and we get, a more wide-scale agreement, say between, National and Labour, or the Greens and other parties in there as well, to commit to whatever has been rescoped, then we will get that sustainable pipeline. We will get that certainty for the bidders who've obviously come into this wanting to build a project. It might not necessarily be at the scale they thought, but the country can't afford that. So,
is this project consistent with the National Infrastructure Plan that all the parties seem to have signed up to and said, this is brilliant, we're going to be consistent on infrastructure? Would the same thing happen if we do adopt the approach that the Commission is suggesting?
Definitely not. This project hasn't been, as far as I understand, independently scrutinised. It didn't go through the Infrastructure Commission's process last year. When we look at what the infrastructure, values, it's right-sizing your solutions to your problems. And as I kind of referred to that benefit cost ratio from 2019, this project is one of, below 1, which means it's not good. And if
I should add there, though, the Minister has, Chris Bishop has said it is over 1. They just haven't actually told us what it is. But I really appreciate your time and your comments. Hopefully, we can chat to the Minister about this as the week progresses. That is Connor Sharp from Greater Auckland.
Thank you so much.
Oh man, I think I'm gonna play some games, because there's not really much to do over here. We could continue the Vicky campaign. That'd be something we could do. Trying to figure out what I want to do here. Let's see, any new games we could probably do? What is this? That was an idle game. Jeffrey Eckstein, what the fuck? You know, let's play some Schedule 1, let's just chill out. Try to slow this up. Okay. Let's do this. So where were we last time? Just make sure everything's watered before I leave. And I can put this probably... Yep. Sweet! Do I have any people I can get as customers? I can, Beth. I'll go get Beth and then see what's up. I should really buy myself a skateboard. So I can like make my way around the map faster. I think she's in one of the buildings, I think. There, please. Sweet! How many drinks am I down? Don't ask me. It's not a question you should be asking. What is Peter file? Alright, cool. We got all the customers that we possibly can get. I think now we're just optimizing the production of our shit. Maybe so it's safer to... I don't really need the cash on me, so I'll just buy the skateboard, because I think the golden skateboard's like 1,500 if I remember correctly. Where am I going here? Here we go. Mr. Gilmore. Yep. Sweet! Alright, put that up. There you go, you got a getaway vehicle. Wait, let me go to the shop. We should have unlocked the electric trimmers now. We did. I don't have money. I'm gonna break this machine here. I don't get free money out of that anymore? Oh, cringe a lot. Maybe still get money out of that. Mr. Thompson, give me $10 more. For 20 more, see if you can actually afford that. Yeah, I can. Broke ass. Alright, I'm gonna do something risky. Give me all the money. Alright, cool. I'm gonna put this into the ATM. I'm gonna buy myself some electric trimmers because I'd rather not have these fuckers. I could pawn this off, right? Yo, Mick. Yeah, sure. Oh, I'm gonna put stuff in the ATM. Deposit, max, put everything in, buy myself electric trimmers and some jars. Why did I buy 2? Kill me. I just need 20 of these bad boys. Sweet! I'm gonna pull this out. I don't know why it gave me 2. Alright, Mick, my boy. No, I wanted this. Give me 30. Alright, cool. I got some of the refund at least. Give me $100 for that. Get a late night deal going. Kill yourself. In the game. Alright, now I can probably harvest these. Inventory full, nice. Okay, put this here. Let's harvest the rest of this. I've already put the jars now inside this bad boy here. There we go, sweet, sweet! The OG Kush. Read the rest of those. I didn't water the fucking shit. Fuck me, man. I probably pushed that to 5. Fuck, just that is neck me, dude. I need a better packing station too eventually because this shit's so AIDS. But then, alright, what do you want? Here we go. I can push that to 5, I think. Accept it, bitch ass. Probably water this. Where's the water at? Alright, sweet! Any more soil and any more seeds. Where's this guy? Oh, it's cheaping OG Kush. Oh, we got a nice haul right there. Right, Albert, my dude, I need hella seeds. Alright, now we're just waiting basically for the next day to hit. What'll do? Actually, more of these 25 milligrams up here. Ugh. Oh shit. There you go. I only got one of these left. Goddamn. I think the other ones I bought should probably be strong enough. Ugh. Alright, what do you chuds want? Mick, my dude. Please get 5. I need you. Love you. I love you. Beth. I think she can only take 3. Can you take 5? Broke ass. Oh, sorry, he's telling me it's ready. Okay, cool. I don't really like how the curfew technically only really applies to me. Makes you feel special, you know? Alright, let's go make these sales. Oh, cool, we got Benji. Oh, Jesse, here we go. Fuck you. Go. Or down there. That's all the deals for tonight. I'm gonna go wash my hands and I'll be back. Alright. I'm back, chuds. Thank you for the greeting. Or the welcoming, whatever. Those seeds. I hope I pay off my debt so I can get some more seeds later on. Opa! Come on. Fuck me. There you go. Oh, man. How many drinks have I actually had? I've forgotten. Let's pay this off. I'll just get the dead drop and then I'll be able to plant the red seed. I don't think I'll actually get the other seeds yet. I'll wait for a green crack because it has like the addictiveness built into it. Is this the thing? It is. Sweet! Give me. Oh, there you go. Alright, so I've got this. I probably want to package other shit. But in the meantime, I think I can get some more customers now. Blah 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 blah. She here? There she is. Take this. Alright, Mr. Steiner. I think this guy here is a good paying customer. You bitch ass motherfucker. Stupid ass. Should fucking like my product, dumbass motherfucker. Give me your money. You know what? No. I'm not done. Go take a swim. Bitch ass. Denied my product. You're a shit in the world. Oh, you know what? I'm bored. Let's go safe. We're gonna research wealth tax stuff, I think. I've been kind of having this in the back of my mind. We'll play some other games. I actually don't know. I'm not too well aware what I want to do, actually. Let's save the game. What do you want to do? Oh, nope, that's not what I wanted to do. I could play some Minecraft. That'd be fun, I guess. Is Megaloot a tag? Megaloot pretty fun to do on stream. It is something, but it's not many people play it. Oh, Bismillah. You know what? Let's play some Stardew Valley. Just get a chill game going, because I am so fucked. Let's play some Stardew. It's a nice chill game, and I'm so drunk right now. Oh. Name. What should the farm name be? Come on. Bros, have you been in here for a while? Chud Hala, okay. What was my favorite thing? What a Chud Floyd's? Maybe my guy's a little melanated. I kind of got this going in real life. That's probably the best. Some more fucking jeans. You want to do a different farm? It's not best for growing crops, pasture, bluegrass, animals love, sow to chickens. Let's go standard farm. I just want like a decent intro. I've also played this game before, so I don't need to do the intro. 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3. I'm just gonna fill this out. Alright, time to water everything now. Man. You know, you should have music in the background of this game. I forget how, like, good and or disgusting the sound effects are. Holy. There you go, take that. Let's go to town. See what all these chuds are talking about. Man. But yeah, I don't know if I want to do a JoJo run or I want to do a community center run this time. Because I've done the community center before, but I haven't done a JoJo, like a corporation run. Because from what I understand, you just fast track the game basically. And low key, might do that because like grinding for the community center was wholesome and awesome, whatever. But it truly was cancer. I figure, what am I doing? Oh, I have to talk to people or whatever. Yo. What's good? What is it? It's almost 9, right? Yeah. Alright, cool. I think I should be able to answer here now. Once it becomes 9, come on, please. 10. Thank you. I don't really talk to that guy. How much is this again? 2,000? Okay. Should do that in the next crop cycle or whatever. Ah. Ugh. What's up, man, Lewis? What's up, L Dog? Yeah, I'm guessing I just have to like sleep to stay away. I can't remember. It's been so long since I actually played this game. I should figure out how it aids like the start of this game is. I can make a scarecrow. I think I got the call for it. How do you craft again? There you go. I haven't looked at scarecrow. Just blow my brains out, dude. I love the fucking sound effect of the stone breaking though, it's so wholesome. boop, 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 boop. Kill me. Still hasn't been approved. Oh. Okay, I gotta go to sleep now. Can I craft? Please have been crafted. Just break my legs, man. I can get the fishing stuff done. It is spring currently. I literally cannot tell. I'm just that retarded. I check the seasons, dude. Oh, it is spring. So maybe I can do 1, 2, 3. There you go. Oh, what it up? Boop, 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 boop. Alright, please tell me I have like the scarecrow, and I really do not want to have to live another day without it. Just blow my brains out, dude. Okay. When do you unlock the scarecrow? I forget. Is it level 3? I just leveled up now, I think. Foraging. Is it farming or foraging that gives you... Oh no, it must be farming that gives you the scarecrow craftable, so I have to wait till those parsnips are ready. Neck me, man. I gotta go down here. Good cut. Alright, let's clear some of this up, and then we'll go to sleep again. Oh, gee. I did a chest. You can go here for now. Sweet! Alright, that's clear. I'm gonna put this away. I got a lot of coal, that's nice at least. Oh, fuck me. Nice. Oh, it's raining. Nice. Holy shit, I just realized I've got so much shit to do, actually. Holy fuck. Okay, wait. I think it's already saved the game. Alright, I will see you chuds later. I actually have to do so much shit. I'm so sorry. I completely forgot about this, so... I'll see you guys later. Maybe I might come on again, but right now I've just got some stuff to do, so